Hey everyone, this is Niels with another tutorial for Cloud Manager. And this time I'm going to show you how to set up a cloud connector. Okay, so we go to Extras, Settings, and then we see our Cloud Settings window here. And on the left side, we have all our created cloud providers. And on the right side, we are able to create a new cloud connector. Okay, so we start off with a cloud connector called Azure Linux. Now you already see why we've split up the cloud providers and connectors as different settings, because you're able to create more than one connector per cloud provider. Meaning you can have, for example, a pool of just Linux machines on Azure, and at the same time you can have a pool that's just using Windows machines, or a pool that is just using GPU, and a pool that is just using CPU machines. So in the end, it's just for convenience, so you don't have to enter this settings on the left-hand side more than once if they are still the same. Okay, so we created the Azure Linux connector here. So in order to use Azure, we can choose from our three providers here. So we go with the Azure Toot. That's the one we've created here. Now we can decide how many VMs we want to start at max. So 1 is too low, but we want to go with 4 because we're just doing a test setup here. And if you want to have more VMs than 4, you can always come back here, increase that number, and save those settings, and then you will be able to create more than 4. You can just increase them here or enter a different number. Okay, but we stick with 4 for now. The default value for job threads is 2, so there can be 2 job threads running simultaneously. If you have any other needs, you might want to change that here, but I think you can always go with the default here. And then we have the low priority setting. The low priority setting, if you enable this, that means that you get low priority VMs, meaning you are not guaranteed to keep them forever. The cloud provider might take them from you because they are needed otherwise. But on the other hand, those low priority nodes are way cheaper than the normal nodes. So it's always a trade-off between, do you want to be really safe to keep all those machines that you started in the beginning, or do you want to go with a lower price and you have to maybe do a little maintenance work and start more machines when you are running your render jobs? So, but we go with the normal ones. Then we go to the hardware section here. We need to choose the VM size, like we chose the VM size for our OpenVPN server. We can also load the available VM sizes. Then we have a drop-down box here. We can, for example, choose the standard A4 here. Then we can choose the operating system. We want to go with Linux, but we could also choose a Windows image. We leave the UMask as is for now. That's an advanced setting. And we come to the local admin username and the password. And the local admin is basically the administrator. And if you want to connect to that machine, if you're on Linux using SSH, or if you're on Windows using RDP, so that's the user and the password you have to use if you want to connect to that machine. So we are going to use our standard user, our user, and we use a password like I'll pick this. And you could also use, at least for Google or AWS, the SSH key, but we can leave that blank here. We don't use an Active Directory, so we can leave that unchecked here. Okay, so and then we move on to the VM image section here. And the VM image depends on what operating system you're using. And if you are on Azure, you can click this Browse button here, and we have a small drop-down box here where you can choose from our various predefined images here. For example, we have Windows images for AMD, CUDA, and Grid compatible graphic cards, and we have Linux images. And yeah, we can, for example, choose the plain one here just for using with CPU rendering. And this publisher plan needed is only required when using Azure. And if you're using one of the other providers like AWS and Google, you can just simply click on the default button here to select one of the predefined images. But you maybe want to know that most of the time you really need to create those images yourself, because you might have special needs, special software that should be pre-installed on that images. We cannot take care of each configuration that might be needed out there, but these are a good start for you, and you can even use them to modify them to your needs and create another image from those. And if you don't know how to create your own VM images, we have a detailed step-by-step instruction in our help files. We show you the link down here below. Okay, so and then we can move to the service users section here. And the service is a small program that is running on the cloud VMs in order to set your configuration. And we need a user and a password here. I'm going to choose the same, our user and password. And if you're using an Active Directory, you want to set the active user domain here. And you can also check if those credentials are working with this button here, but we don't have an Active Directory that manages our users here, so we don't have to fill that in. And you should also know that this user needs to exist as an Zumber user or NFS user on-premise in order to get access to your Royal Render Share, or if you have a separate file server in order to serve your textures, scenes, and so on, you need to have that user there with the rights to access all those shares. Okay, so that's it for the cloud connectors. We've learned how to create a cloud connector and how to associate that with a certain cloud provider. We've learned how to set the VM size and the operating system, set an admin username and password, set the image that should be used in order to create those VMs, and we've learned what a client service user is and that this user is also necessary in order to access the local shares. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.